Hi, and welcome to Outdoor Adventures. This segment we're going to be covering paracord bracelets and how to make those. Paracord bracelets are comprised of a cord or rope. A lot of times you see, a lot of folks like to wear these around or wear them on their wrist or maybe have lanyards or all sorts of different items that you can make out of paracord. These aren't just a fashion statement, even though they do look really nice as a bracelet or other items. But you might also consider the importance and the safety value that this could actually have in possibly saving your life if you found yourself in an emergency. Now let's think about the logistics of rope and how helpful that can be. A lot of people really underestimate the value that a good rope could have in a setting where maybe you found yourself lost in the woods or just camping or something like that, and you actually need a rope to maybe secure something, bundle up some of your supplies, maybe create a ridge for a tent or tarp to hang over, a clothesline. The number of uses of paracord goes on and on and on. Not only is the cord itself, this 550 cord, a really nice strength, and 550 is the weight that it can hold. Would you believe that this cord right here can hold 550 pounds of weight? Especially the military type is engineered just for that. There's a lot of uses beyond just the colorful cord on the outside. The cord also is developed by inner strings as well. These can be separated or untwisted and used for even smaller purposes beyond like tight ropes. They can be used for tying things like maybe you had an accident like your shoestring broke on you. They can also be used as fishing line, tooth floss, a couple of different uses like that. But today we're going to focus on how to make paracord bracelets, and it's really easy. So I have already started a bracelet here, which you can see, just to kind of give everybody the idea. And in the end, when it's finished, we'll make a really nice bracelet with a snap. So I'm going to start by telling you what equipment we're going to need for today's activity. As I already pre-mentioned, I have purchased from a local store, crafting store, or you can get these at outdoor sporting stores as well, paracord rope. 550 strength, but they do come in a variety of different sizes and colors to mix up. While you can make these bracelets with a loop on the end, I will say that I really like the use of buckles. You can also purchase these. These were purchased locally at a Hobby Lobby store, any other craft store. We don't condone necessarily one or the other, but those might be some places or ordering online that you might be able to find a pretty unique item like a buckle. So honestly, that's just about it. Now I did have some other resources that I thought I might share with you all today. There are a lot of paracord crafting books. Not just crafty, but even think about the practical uses of a variety of different braids. Today we'll be working with the cobra braid. But there's a lot of other types that include single strands as well as double strands. So if you've seen some that have two colors, those are varieties of different types of bracelets that are made. Or they use a concept called fusing, which requires heating or adding flame to the end of those ropes, paracord strings, and actually fusing those together. Other resources you might find when you get in the store is sometimes some of these stores have some really nifty publications and things that you can use. So just to keep in mind, that was pretty simple as far as the supplies that you're going to want to purchase from a store. Things that you more than likely have at home. I've included a lighter. A lighter's handy, but I will say this is just for our adults to use, okay? This is not for our kids. There is a kid-friendly option of completing this bracelet without a lighter, but if you have an adult guardian nearby, being able to fuse the final string with a lighter is really handy. If not, we'll talk alternatives. A ruler or a measuring tape is handy, and also you're going to want a pair of scissors. Pretty simple supplies for today's activity. So let's get started. Although I've got it started here, I want to first start by telling you all how to actually start it from the beginning. So we'll talk about how to make this continued cobra stitch, and we're also going to tell you how to start that particular bracelet. So in order to start from the very beginning, I'm going to tell you that you're going to need 8 feet of the paracord 550 strength in order to do this particular bracelet that we're working on today. While there are many designs, we're going to start with 8 feet of paracord. I've got a shorter piece here just for example to get us started today. You're also going to want a buckle. Now they do make these in black, but they also make these in smaller sizes, and they also make colorful options as well with the buckles. We're using a rather small buckle today. So to start out with, I'm going to take the tooth end of the paracord, or of the buckle here, split my string in half, okay? Split it in half. I'm going to, from the bottom, okay, from the bottom of the buckle, going to poke my cord inside, and then after I've created a little loop like this, I'm simply going to tuck the inside of the bracelet and pull through just like that. Okay, really simple. So all we did was go through the bottom of the buckle, up, take that extra loop, and stick the buckle inside. Great. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to measure out your length of your bracelet that you need. So in order to make a small size, that's going to be 9 inches, or a larger size, depending on the size of your wrist, you may want to, your total end length is going to be 9 3/4 inches. So we're going to measure out what this is going to look like in the end and what you need to do. So to start out with, I know the length of my wrist I've already pre-measured is 6.5 inches. So I'm going to tack on 1 extra inch because I want mine to have a little bit of space in between it. So we're going to make the entire length of my bracelet 7.5 inches, knowing that I may lose a little bit of that just due to the braid that goes around it. So using my ruler here, I'm going to, and where the buckle ends at, okay, so that I actually am measuring that length, I'm going to measure down to 7.5 inches and kind of pinch it here. Okay, so other buckles here, we're still working with the exact same string. Then what I'm going to do, taking the snapping side of the buckle, not the side with the teeth, I'm going to run it through. I still kind of, I'm juggling a little bit because I'm pinching that end. I don't want to lose place of where that's at. And if I do lose place of it, I will just simply remeasure it again. So, not a big issue, but we're going to tuck our ends through the bottom of this bracelet. Okay, and straighten these 2 pieces out. I want to make sure that my cords are still parallel, and I'm going to remeasure just to make sure that I do not lose my place. So, just in case that happened, we're going to measure our 7.5 inches. I'm going to pinch there. Pinching there at the 7.5 point, I'm going to slide my buckle up here, and this is where I'm going to start my bracelet. Just to test it out, I may say, oh, yep, that's going to be exactly the extra width that I want for this bracelet, because it's going to be a little bulkier on your arm than just simply measuring around. So, with that being said, I am going to try my very best to turn this towards you all and be able to show you all what this is going to look like in order to get started. So I personally love this as a 4H agent. Today we're going to be using a 4H loop pattern in order to be able to make our cobra knots. So just keep that 4 and the H of 4H in mind when we're making these today. And I'm going to do this backwards for myself, so please work with me a little bit. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a 4, as you can see developed right here, okay? So 4 crossing over, these are the working strands, okay? These are the working strands, and these are the standing strands. I'm going to refer to the ones running straight down as standing strands. Working strands are the ones that I'm working with. So I've got my 4 right here created, and I have taken that strand over the top of the working strands. Okay, next I'm going to take my other right side of my working strand and I'm going to run it downwards. If you can see now, I've got the 4 on that side, but then I have my string going down over this one, creating an H. That's where we get that 4H pattern. Then this is going to be going over. So the first time we went over with the first loop. We went over those 2 working strands. This time, when I start down with the right side, I'm going to go over the previous working strand. I'm going to go behind the working strands, and I'm going to pull my end out here. Okay, so at this point, it just looks like a big old loop. However, when we tighten this up, okay, when we tighten this up, and also ensuring that this is sticking around my 7-inch point, as it kind of will stretch a little bit on you, okay, I have the start of my very first knot, and I'm going to pull it tight, as you can see there. All right, making sure that I'm keeping these the same distance. One's not significantly longer. There we go. We have our first knot. We're going to continue that 4H pattern over and over. So I'm going to do a few more on this beginner bracelet here, and then we'll pick up further at the end of this second pre-made bracelet to kind of explain more. Now, you're going to constantly do that 4H pattern, but note that you're going to swap from the left side of the bracelet to the right side of the bracelet. If you're anything like me, it's really easy to get sidetracked. Or if you're talking to other people, I have a hard time remembering, did I go from the left or the right first? This last time, we started on this left side. So this next time, we're going to start on the right side. I'm going to know which side I should be working on because this loop is going to be a parallel loop. Okay, my loop is following the length of this bracelet down the standing strands. And you'll see that, you'll notice that a little bit more, but that'll help you keep track. Okay, so I'm going to do the 4 shape there. All right, and lay it flat for us. I'm doing the 4 shape there. Then I'm taking this other working strand, running it downwards. Okay, so the 4 initially went off the right side, covered over the top of those working strands, and just laid flat. This left strand is going to go over that loop, but behind those working strands, okay? So the first is always going to go over, the second side's always going to go under. Then I'm going to pull it tight, okay? You'll feel when it's right. We're going to do a few more on this again, just so we get the hang, because I know it takes a couple of times. Don't get frustrated with this. It's going to take a little bit of practice. Let's see it done again. On this left side, we're going to make our 4 shape, and you can make it pointed, but that's not necessary. But to remember the 4H pattern, 4, and then we're leaving that side down. We're going to take the right working side and run our H, okay? You can see our lines of our H running that direction. But then, after we go over that, we're going under and behind to pull through that loop. Then, we're going to pull tight. Okay? I came off of the left side last, so I'm going to start with my right side. I know that this is the side I'm starting on because, as I reminded you, this little loop is running down parallel to my working strands. So, let's see this again. On the left side, we're going to do the 4. Okay, crossing over the working strands. Right side, we're going to go down. We're going to go down, creating our H. We're going to go behind the 2 working strands, and we're going to pull tight. You'll know that you're doing it the right direction. You should see essentially like a bird beak, if you will, a little sideways V. And the sideways V, or essentially just a diagonal, should connect with each other, okay? Your diagonal, each line of your diagonal should pick up from the previous point. If it doesn't pick up from the previous point, or you've got 2 parallel diagonal lines, you'll note that's where you went wrong, and simply you just started on the wrong side of the bracelet. So, we talked about the actual tightening and stitching pattern. Let's pick up a little further down the bracelet. Now that I've got a pre-completed one, I've been doing this for a while. It's not a very timely project, but we're going to pick back up with this one. Now, knowing, once again, I haven't worked on this one in a little while, but I know that this chain is running straight down with those standing strands. So I know that I'm going to have to start on this left side for you all. I'm going to take my working strand. I'm going to go over the double strands. I'm going to take my right strand, go over the previous one, behind, and loop through. I'm going to continue this pattern over and over and over again until I get towards the end of my buckle. I'm going to watch and make sure that I'm getting a diagonal zigzag back and forth to make sure that I don't have any errors. Taking an error out is pretty easy. So for instance, if I were to start on the wrong side, let's say I know I need to start on this right side, but let's say I forgot, picked up on the left side, did my loop here, went over, went behind, and did it this way, for instance. Okay, if I were to look at this and say, oh, something's not right? So our diagonals, I've got, instead of having that diagonal line that picks up each line, picks up where it left off, I've got 2 diagonal lines leading this direction. That tells me, oh, that wasn't right. So it's just as simple as pulling on this previous cross diagonal line, pulling it out like this, and that's how you're going to remove a stitch. Nice and easy. That's the really great part about paracord. So we're going to continue with this until we get to the very end. Important things to keep in mind while you're working on your paracord is to keep those stitches nice and tight. You don't want them to be significantly loose. Some other really neat parts about paracord, or just the survival capability of having paracord, is this particular bracelet design is one long 8-foot strand of rope. Now, while that may not sound like a lot, you can do a lot with that if you found yourself in the need to do a survival, if you found yourself in case of emergency. This could even be used in the case of a medical emergency if you needed to create a tourniquet or anything like that. So lots of different options out there. If you're curious in learning more about those different types of uses, feel free to jump on maybe YouTube with the consent of a parent and check out different options for making or using knots. I promise you, there's lots of different videos that are full of like 100 uses of how to use paracord, and they're super useful. So we're almost getting to the end. We've got just a few more. We're going to keep going though. All right, we're going to keep going just a little bit more. Okay, it's going to take about one more after I complete this one. I'm going to fill that last little space. You'll actually notice that this strand, that center strand, stretches along with it. So it's the same center strand that we had the entire time. It has the capability to really scrunch down if you like yours really tight. If you like it a little bit more drawn out, you can push it along just like that. So you can actually control that. And the tighter and more bunched it is, the more rope that you're actually going to have, paracord rope, that you will actually have access to. So it's not a bad idea to have it super, super scrunched up. All right, and that was our last one. As you can see, we have finished it. It's at the end. Now, what do we do with these long loose ends that we've got? As you can see, we've got the exposed. You might have even noticed this little white frill that comes out. These are the internal cords that help strengthen the entire paracord. These aren't really necessary, and we're going to be cutting all of this excess off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull this extra tight, especially if it loosens over time. So I've pulled it extra tight. I'm going to, leaving a little bit of space because I'm going to end up actually burning this. I'm going to cut one end, leaving an end just with a little fray because that's going to end up getting burnt. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So some designs will have you tuck it. We're going to keep it nice and easy today. After you burn it, it's going to do a pretty good job of keeping this all together. Once again, this next part, this is for the parents, not for our kids out there, to actually complete and finalize this bracelet. The rest can be completely done by kids, but we want parents to assist with this last part. So just using a really typical lighter, I'm going to add my flame. It's going to singe it. I'm just barely touching the flame to the edge because I just want to singe and fuse that a little bit, and I don't want to burn the rest of my cord. All right, okay, and it's going to cool down. We're going to do the same thing, and it's a nice clean. It's no longer frizzly like that side, but it's nice and clean. We're going to do this on this other side. let it cinch, being really gentle with it. Okay, use fire safety when you're doing this. Allowing it, you're going to notice that it's melting down. Paracord is actually kind of a little bit of a plasticky based rope system. And just like that, didn't hurt my buckle one bit, but I have completed. That's going to keep these right in place and going to keep these from pulling out. And there you have it. I have a nice, pretty little bracelet. All right, other things you can complete like this, like I said, you can use the same technique to make a lanyard or a dog collar and a dog leash. The uses are endless. There's lots of different ways that you can use paracord in your future. We encourage you to be creative. Stay tuned for our next segment. We're going to be discussing different types of knots that you can use with ropes and paracord.